Hi everyone, Dan here from the Geek Physique with my awesome client Callum. He's just finished his first 8 weeks with us, and we're just going to review how the last 8 weeks have been, what changes he's made, what he's learned, and his experience over the last 8 weeks. How are you doing, Callum?
I'm good, man. I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board these last 8 weeks. And why don't you just give us kind of a brief summary on how you think the last 8 weeks have been?
Uh, overall, obviously with the kind of Christmas period, it's been a bit hectic, but I think overall, in terms of, I guess, like what the program has done for me, um, it's, I guess it's kind of multi-layered. There's a lot of different elements to it, um, yeah, I guess there's a lot of different elements to it, and where it's not just kind of like the fitness and the aesthetic where the benefits have been seen. It's kind of in other elements as well. So
Yeah.
the thing at like the forefront of my mind, I guess, like when we kind of first spoke, I remember we kind of discussed, I guess it was like using certain machines and like having confidence in the gym and kind of having a routine and knowing what you're doing. And I
Yes.
feel like I feel like the main thing for me, realistically, is, I guess, having having those meetings every week and the ability to kind of like discuss things with you that I wouldn't necessarily find out, because you can search on YouTube, you can watch videos and stuff and see, you know, different videos on and advice on how to use certain machines or what certain exercises to do, but it doesn't feel personalized to you.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'd been given advice by like other people, not to the same capacity, but kind of like people who'd been into their fitness and stuff, and
Yeah.
were into the gym, just about what to do or what I could do, and like general advice. And I guess for me, mentally, that wasn't enough to, I guess, give me enough confidence or be consistent enough for long enough to see a change, because it was like it's kind of, I've only got like a partial answer to like a question. So I needed like a larger system to kind of like follow in order to, I guess, see progress. So yeah, I guess it was maybe gain a lot of confidence in knowing how to use the gym, what to use in the gym, nutrition as well. I think just the realizing that most of it is nutrition and just like committing to like a diet and stuff. And obviously, I haven't been amazing with that throughout, but I've tried to be, particularly with protein intake, because obviously
Yes.
with my goals, it's been mainly just like putting on muscle, putting on weight. Obviously, for other individuals, it varies, but calorie intake wasn't like going over my calories wasn't a massive thing for me, but making sure I had the right amount of protein was. So being a lot more like every piece of food that I look at now, it'll always be like protein content, like and not in a way where like I'm like just like a protein rat, but like just like I'm very aware of like using every opportunity to like take in as much protein as I can,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. That's
Um,
really good to hear, man. And you kind of went over like the other questions I was going to ask you, which is kind of like where you were when you started. As
mhm.
you said, just to summarize, what you've already said, I know that you were training, but it was just kind of having a direction, having faith in the plan, and
Yeah.
understanding why you were doing what you were doing and all that good stuff.
Mm.
But one thing I will say is your consistency has been stellar. We all have those weeks and times where we don't just things happen. And for the audience at home, like Callum's traveling to and from another country, um so quite regularly, and that can mess with your schedule, right? And so even though you've had that, you've been really consistent overall, especially with Christmas and New Year as well factored in. So how do you feel about that part of it? Because I know you just mentioned consistency.
Yeah, so I guess with the consistency thing, I know at first it was I was very much on top of it, but like we kind of said, naturally as it got towards like the Christmas period and New Year's period,
Yeah.
especially in the couple of weeks leading up to it, I was obviously going to see my partner abroad like multiple times. And the issue wasn't motivation for the gym, because she goes super often. It was just kind of tainted by injury, illness, and just like festivities essentially. So that kind of just like prevented it. So
The
I mean,
trifecta.
I guess yeah, it was once you have the consistency down. I mean, for sure, there are days every week where I'm like not motivated to go. I'm like I don't want to do this. I don't like I can't be bothered to do this, but it's more you just commit to it and the more you like because I know people just say like you'll feel better when you go and like that's kind of easy to dismiss, especially if it's before you've gone, but like once you do go you do kind of feel better for it. And I found there was almost like a dread of like oh there's certain things perhaps like I don't want to do certain exercises, and I know I did. I would shy away from like the ab workouts and things like that. But for the majority of other stuff, I do remember a specific feeling of going to the gym. I'd open the app and I'd look at the program, what I was doing that day. I'd have like an idea, but I wouldn't think about it too much. And I'd look through it and be like, oh, this is all like stuff that I can do. This is all easy. Like it's not as long. It's just kind of like just getting there and getting to the start line was the hardest bit. And then once you're there, you just do it like
Yeah.
and you feel good for it.
Do you think, and this is something I've found in my experience with like the gym and fitness and all of this stuff, do you find that it's had a positive impact in your life in general? Just, I don't know, like one thing for me is just like consistency and that what you just
Mm.
touched upon, right? There's always going to be stuff in life. Like, I don't know, if you want to better your career, you want to look for a better job, and you might be in a job where you're comfortable, but it's about sending out the CVs and doing it when you don't feel like it. And I feel like
Yeah,
the gym kind of mirrors a lot of areas of life in that way.
yeah, for
Do you
sure. I
feel like,
mean,
yeah,
I mean, I like having structure really, and I like having routines. So I guess initially it was working out a routine, and that was a bit chaotic at first. I remember being like, before I'd started this kind of program with you, being a bit skeptical of like, oh, like I don't really know what I'm doing, and like I don't. It's hard to work out a routine if you don't have, I guess, someone to kind of guide you with that structure initially. So yeah, with the routine of it, it definitely helped. I guess after the first couple of weeks, once I started getting into it, the routine was there. It was easy to do, and I guess overall, knowing that it was something that I guess I was doing that was positive, and then especially when I started seeing the changes,
yeah,
that's when it was kind of like you get more you just having I guess having the confidence in the gym physically as well. Um, you and I guess in a sense of it can be an intimidating place if it's not somewhere
for
that you
sure.
go to or frequent or have ever been to. And you go in there and kind of everyone looks like they know what they're doing, but realistically, it's just kind of like everyone's just doing their own thing, and it doesn't really matter. Like, and you kind of just learn to like let go a little bit. And I would say I was pretty laid back and relaxed and not overly concerned with other people anyway. But there's always certain elements of that of feeling like self-conscious. But I found
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
after I started going there now, like regardless of what I'm doing, what weights I'm lifting, like what machines I'm using. It's just kind of like having, I guess, confidence, but also just not really being that bothered about what other people see. And just yeah, just building confidence in yourself basically was a large part of it.
awesome, man. That's awesome. And do you have any kind of feedback? So, like, you touched upon the obviously you touched upon the training side of things, you know, the food, and
Hmm.
you also mentioned the calls. And for everyone watching, you know, we have a call once a week for the community where all of us guys jump on and we talk through, you know, how everyone's doing. And I know you said you found those helpful. So what's
Mm.
kind of your feedback overall with everything?
I suppose overall it's just I mean it's been like a hugely positive experience in terms of like everything that I've done, and then obviously seeing I guess for the first month or so it was kind of being unsure, um being unsure of like seeing a change, but speaking to a few people, they're just like commit to it. You'll see it after a month, and then you start getting like the comments and stuff, and like I know my partner's just like, oh, like, I can see your shoulders are bigger, or your back's like your back's more toned or more muscular, and then that kind of motivates you more. So I think overall, general experience. Um, I guess I wasn't really sure what to expect. It's not something that I've done previously.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously since I joined, the kind of whole community has kind of like grown, at least by like, I don't know, double perhaps. And I guess the more people that are there, like even though I feel like I don't really know much, I think if other people have questions and you kind of have your own input, obviously it's kind of like I can give advice to other people, but you're there if I give shit advice to be like, no. Um, but it's good to have that kind of space
Sure.
where people can interact like that, just like strangers can interact like that, especially because it's something, I don't know, a lot of people I imagine would do it because of issues with confidence and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
be able to like discuss it with other people openly in that group is quite an important thing, and I guess also like a big part of the process as well, like a vulnerability thing, but in order to like grow and prosper.
Yeah. And when
Um,
you're, I think just to piggyback off that point, if you're in like, let's say week 5 of the 8-week challenge and someone's in week 2, it's likely that you've probably gone through a lot of the things they're going to go through. So you're already steps ahead of that person. And you might
mm,
still feel like you have a lot to learn, but it's like a video game. Like you might be at level like 7 and they're like at level 1 still. And so you obviously have a lot that you can help them with. And I think it's one thing the coach saying it, but then it's another thing like if other guys are going through similar issue or struggling, or it might be a life, oftentimes it's a life gym balance thing, right? Whether it's with
yeah,
work or social life or
yeah,
your partner or family or whatever.
hmm
And sometimes it's just nice to know, like, oh, I'm not the only one like going through this.
yeah, yeah. I think as well, I suppose in terms of like engaging with the program as well. Um, I think the 4 days worked well for me. Obviously, it might have been a bit different over the Christmas period, but I decided to stick with it
Yep.
anyway, because that's just what I was used to, and I'm the kind of person where once I've gotten into a routine, I don't like to change it just like willy nilly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's important, I guess, or it was important for me just to stick to that routine. Um, Ask questions as well is an important thing. Like I think anything that I wasn't comfortable with or that didn't really work for me, I think to make the most of this, just like say it. I mean, obviously, don't overshare, but like if there's something that's really not working for you, then just like say it kind of like as early as like appropriately possible, and then kind of get it resolved. Because the quicker you do that, I think the more progress that you'll see and the more you'll get out of this in terms of like a more personalized, beneficial program that works for like you or whoever does it specifically.
For sure. And again, to piggyback off your point, I know that Cal was always asking questions about like exercise technique and things like that, which are a bit more not advanced, but like the level 1 thing, let's say, is just like it's turning up and being consistent. And I always said to you from the start, like you just had that down. So for everyone watching, if you have that down, then you can start to worry about like on this lat pull down, like where do I pull to, like how much do I stretch and how slow should I go, and all that stuff is still important when you first start out, of course. But if you're not even going, you're not even consistent, then you obviously want to get that sorted first. But no,
Yeah.
you asked some really good questions, man, and it's I know they're helpful for everyone else as well. So thank you for that. Cool.
Thank you.
So now let's go through your wins, man, because I know you submitted some cool picture changes. I'm also going to go through your weight because I think this is going to be an interesting one for the audience as well. So I'm just going to share my screen. It might be quite small on your end, bro. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and let me know when you can see my screen. Can you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah.
Or is it quite
Yeah. Yeah.
small?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that.
Cool. So if I scroll down the graph, you were hovering around 82 when you
Hmm.
started, and you're about
Hmm.
85.5 now. And putting on muscle, bulking essentially, for the audience at home, that's about, if we say about 3.5 kg. Let me just get my calculator up and do it in pounds, just because that's what I usually go by for the weeks. That's just under a pound per week. And that's a really good place to shoot for, guys. Um, but watching at home, when you're bulking, you don't want to push it too fast. And I know when you first started out, the weight was kind of hovering around the same point.
Mm.
Um, so my point is, for the audience at home, you don't need to rush bulking. Like with fat loss, that can happen a lot faster than bulking can. And even then, you don't want to rush that. But the point here is there's no need to rush it. If you're adding weight slowly but surely, you can ensure that it's, a good portion of it is muscle and not excess fat, essentially. So I think that's good to see, man. I know you weren't that bothered about the scale weight. Do you have any kind of like view on this, or you just kind of or the pic?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't overly bothered. I did say, I guess when we first spoke, I thought I was around about 80, 81 kilos, and then obviously that when I took my first measurements, it was about 82.
Yep.
Um, and then I guess what is it? Yeah, I would say at the beginning of December mark, or maybe a little before that, I was I increased my protein supplements. I would have two portions a day instead of the one, and I think um, that might have seen. And I think there was also a shift in mindset as well, from like a nutrition perspective. So yeah, it's good. I'm happy with the weight. I'm happy with the weight. I think at first I was like, oh shit, am I going to see this on my waist? But I didn't like, and well, I did, but not in a way that was like negative because obviously there was growth in other areas. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fine. And I think I'm less bothered about, I've got a little bit of like a pouch, but it's nothing really. Especially with the other benefits. And I think being between 85 and 90, which I think is kind of what I'd said to you initially, um, even if it's just nice to look at on the scales, it just makes me feel it just makes me feel more normal more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's just the weight that I just like had in mind. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with that at the moment.
Cool, man. Yeah. Yeah. And just again, these are all like valuable little pieces for the audience. You're gonna inevitably put on a bit of fat with the muscle gain. It's just inevitable. Even if you do it as cleanly as possible, there will be a little bit, and some of that inevitably will go on the waist. And it's just a game, and this is something we'll go through. You know, when you want to talk through what happens next after your 8 weeks, Cal. And again, if anyone at home, it's just playing a game of how big are you happy for your waist to go. Of
Mm.
course, there's a limit to that from a health perspective, but within like a reasonable range health wise. Some people don't mind carrying a bit more weight around the midsection. Some people don't want to carry as much weight around the midsection. I've gone through this myself when I first started bulking. I bulked too hard, got a bit too fat, and then I was like, I want to pull it back now because actually this is where I feel most comfortable and happy with. So it's definitely an important point. But like Cal said, as long as you're seeing the changes in the other areas, your muscles all around, then you're on the right track. And
Mm.
on that note, and flick to these two pictures. So I wanted to start with the back shot. You mentioned your partner mentioned your back, and obviously it is a bit zoomed
Yeah.
in, but like on the second picture in comparison, but you can just see by the back, just like the thickness overall, the
Mm.
arm thickness as well. Like if you look at the tricep thickness, um, I think there's just a massive change here, man. How are you feeling about the back progress?
Yeah, it's that I'd say that's probably been like the main place where I've seen progress, which is also kind of where I think when we initially discussed it was like upper and it was kind of like shoulders, chest, back where and like arms were where I wanted to see like the most kind of progress, sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think yeah, you can kind of see as well from like there's a few more on the left hand side, kind of like ripples in the skin, and it is looking smooth and thick on the right hand side.
Yeah, I mean it's just the overall thickness, I think overall like from back, arms, like I said,
Mm,
there's a big change, which is good.
yeah.
And then if we flick to, I picked your front shot as well. I don't know why I didn't do side by side. It's just a comparison thing on the app. But you
Hmm.
can just see the first thing that stands out for me about the changes here are shoulder width,
Mm,
leg width, and definition. Because like the
yeah.
thighs are you've just got more shape to them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and arm width, and then chest. You already had a good frame for your chest anyway, I think, when you started out, but you can just see more of a ridge, I think.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about the front on changes?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All like all good, all good. I suppose it's weird looking at them because I don't know, like I see myself every day, so it's hard
Yeah.
when you're viewing it incrementally. Obviously, it's better to have the pictures than not
Yeah.
because you can make the comparisons from like the beginning until now. But obviously, when I take the pictures and I'm looking at myself from today, I'm just like, just this just looks like me today. But I
Exactly.
think specifically with the shoulders, the arms, and the chest, all things that I've had comments on as well, and that I can see more, especially the shoulders. I can see more definition now, um, just like well each day, and the legs as well. I think that was um, I guess like a big thing as well. I guess I didn't see much growth, but definitely more kind of like tone and like definition.
Yeah, yeah. There's much more shape. Like you have a quad sweep, which is where the quad
Hmm.
comes out to the side, and then the inner part of the quad as well, showing up where it like the teardrop that goes down the knee.
Hmm.
All more definition there, which I think is good. So yeah, man, great. And then the last one I wanted to pick a side on shot. And like Cal said, again for the audience at home, like you said, he's got a little pouch there, but the main focus for Cal was gaining muscle, going into a bulk phase. And again, you can just see like more thickness up top, arms, shoulder, chest, and also posture improvement. Some things like a small thing, but people don't usually think about this at all. But it helps with, it's kind of like an illusion in a way, let's say, where depending on how you hold your physique, even if you haven't been to the gym, if you've got a decent frame, if you have better posture, it will just make you look better, right?
Mm.
And going to the gym always improves your posture. Oh, and obviously the booty gains as well, which you probably didn't even think about or anticipate.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, I remember a conversation that we had where you were just like, when you work out, like you don't go too heavy on that area because it just balloons.
yeah,
And I'm assuming it does something similar for me as well. So, but yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. Girlfriend's happy with it, so I can't complain.
perfect, man. Awesome, awesome, cool. So those are obviously Callum's changes over the last 8 weeks, and I just wanted to kind of put the ball back in your court, mate. Any more last remarks? Anything you kind of want to let the audience know before we close out?
Um, I guess overall, if people are like considering this, like, or whether it's people who are still currently kind of taking part or started the program, um, like I said before, it can seem intimidating. All this talk of like bulking or cutting or like gaining weight or gaining muscle and like taking measurements and stuff, um, and it can seem, I guess, a little daunting at first because it feels like there's a lot to kind of keep track of. But like anything, I guess you just have to make it habit. Like get into it for the first week, first 2 weeks, and then you'll start to see that it kind of naturally becomes like reflex. Like you'll start to think more naturally about what foods to eat that contain protein, what's better for your diet nutritionally, what certain things you potentially should avoid, or um, I guess like all of that. And when it becomes more natural, it becomes less of a chore and it becomes easier to do. And I think you'll see more of a change after
Yeah,
that happens. So it's just, it might seem daunting. It's really not. but just like have faith in the process and commit to it, and that's probably when you'll see like the biggest changes.
Awesome, man. That's super helpful, and thank you for going through that and your hard work over the last 8 weeks, man.
All right, thank you.